Director Bartlett Sher is known for many great stagings of classic plays, musicals, and operas. And his latest success is Lincoln Center Theater's great revival of The King and I, which is up for 9 Tony Awards. Congratulations for that.
Thank you, thank you.
And you know, as you did with South Pacific, you're making something timeless, fresh, with this Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. How do you do that? What's the starting point?
Whenever you do an interpretation of a great previous text of any kind, you always look for some kind of immediate significance right now. Whatever applies to and affects our world or us as human beings right now, in the minute, in the world, in 2015.
You certainly did that here with looking at women, how women are in the world today.
We were first moved by this editorial or this article I read in which they said that the most important, this is where I started, the most important and most dangerous thing in the developing world is a young girl with a book. And that the way that the current culture is sort of, we're sort of thrown between traditional and modern ideas, whether that's in the Middle East, whether that's here in America, anywhere, you know, between a traditional way of looking at the world and new ways of looking at the world. That tension between those two things is where this play sits.
So Kelly O'Hara, a leading lady you've worked with many times, the star here, has said that you're a director who digs and digs and digs. So is it an intense rehearsal process for everyone?
It's not intense. I think there are two versions of directors. People like to believe the director did all this homework and knows everything he wants at the beginning. And so that I show up with a big thick book with it all written down and I'm simply going to draw it out of the actor. That's what people believe. What it actually is, maybe in my case, is that I enter into an ongoing activity of searching for the answer. So because Kelly and I have done this 4 times, we go through a process of continuing to deepen the work we have. So we do a lot of bad versions of the scenes long before we get to the good versions. And as we're heading toward the good versions, then you start to see how it works. But it's mostly, that's what the digging is about. It's about pushing through and getting to really precise, detailed answers and using the rehearsal process to do that.
And you're going to be doing in the fall another great American musical, Fiddler on the Roof.
Yes.
Doing one classic show, dealing with, you know, thinking about at least another that's dealing with different circumstances. Do they inform? Do you think you'll be drawing on this in any way?
I think the ability, the luck I've had to do these kind of shows is something which I feel I'm always kind of poised between the old and the new, or between history and now. I think particularly in the case of Fiddler, which is a little bit more personal because I had a father who was born, you know, in Eastern Europe. I think that each one is like its own separate object, its own separate autonomous life, and you kind of build the world of that. The activity of doing rehearsals is the same, but each one is like a child of your, you know, that you're deeply in love with, but you can't make one child be like the other. You have to let them kind of grow up on their own. And that's not demeaning them. I'm not trying to say they're like children. I'm just saying they have to have their own independent life. And that's maybe the fun part for me, is the search to pull out of each particular show these sort of deeper things that people hadn't thought about or are new for them, and at the same time preserve what they love about them and how much they move them or make them cry or make them remember when they saw them the first time.
Yeah. And for the Tonys, you've obviously won Tonys, you've won a number of awards. Do you still get excited about them or nervous?
Which answer do you want? The Tonys, you know, the honest answer is that it's a wonderful way to promote our work. You know, in other words, you always want to be a part of the Tonys because it means that you've done something which has a right to be heard and seen and experienced everywhere. So being a part of the experience of the Tonys is wonderful for King and I and wonderful for me. Going through the experience of getting ready and all the anxiety and the people who maybe didn't get nominated and the trauma of, you know, what are we going to do on the show and, you know, what will I win or won't I win? That's really not so much fun. But so it's always one of those things where as successful as you might experience yourself to be, you're also in the middle of this like crazy preparation for it. And I mean, I love the experience of going and the day of going and the kind of ritual of it. But the actual experience of preparing for it and being a part of the kind of psychic world of it, it's pretty intense.
Well, it's richly deserved in any case. So thank you for joining us and for this wonderful production as
My
well.
pleasure. It was great.